Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today's upload is wow. I've got a subscriber interview. Friend of the channel, friend of mine, DJ, out of Tazewell, Virginia. I also have some more of the Reptilian case files, and really good upload. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Before we get into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost a cent. Click that like button. It takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. And folks, they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to today's upload, shall we? All right, guys, as promised, I said that I was going to talk to the friend of the channel, friend of mine, DJ from Tazewell, Virginia. Many of you remember him. He's had some experiences with Dogman out that way and Buchanan. Crawlers. There's a lot of cave systems in Tazewell. DJ has really given me a lot of information about some strange stuff that occurs there and that occurred there back in 2020 through 2022. There's a lot of disappearances and a lot of deaths. Richard Timothy Honecker disappeared there and was found a year later in a culvert tunnel. Just a lot of weird stuff happened and does still continue to happen in Tazewell, Virginia, which Buchanan is right next door, Buchanan, Virginia. And then right across the border is Mercer, West Virginia. Right there. That's like a hotbed triangle. So, DJ, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing fine, Jeff. Thanks for asking.
Well, I appreciate you taking some time out of the night. I know that we haven't been able to touch bases in a while. We've both been going through some stuff. I know that you've had some real strange experiences that have happened recently. I don't know, however you want to start it off. Maybe from the beginning and then work your way into what's been going on at the house after, however you want to do it.
I understand, my friend. I got another friend of mine who lives in Tazewell, and him and his dad got him into its family tradition. They're third generation raccoon hunters, and his dad is really big into the sport. I mean, his dad, John's grandfather, got into it back in the late 60s, early 70s, when the pelts were actually bringing money. You could actually skin them and get money for your troubles.
Okay.
They don't hardly do that no more, but it's still a sport, and he enjoys it. And his dad has thousands upon thousands of dollars invested in animals, dog training, collars, boxes, houses, food deals, and everything. He's even won championships for doing it. And he won't have a dog that is not a registered breed and is well known. And as a matter of fact, both of the hounds he had were descendants of Grand Night champions, which anybody who raccoon hunts knows what I'm talking about. Well, he contacted me because the place he used to live, me and him used to squirrel hunt when we were kids. So I know the land pretty well like he does. But his dad had lost his dogs, and he couldn't find them. He couldn't know they weren't barking. They had been gone for 2 days. They weren't responding. They didn't come home. So he had me split up, those four of us, and try to split up to see if we could find anything by just good old knocking around the brush and seeing what we could find.
All right.
Well, 2 days we done this and nothing until his dad finally remembered he had a telemetry collar on one of them. He had forgot it was attached to the shot collar on it.
Now, can you tell us what that is? So for the people that don't know.
It's a tracker. It's a tracking system that if you get within so many yards, it'll lead you to it.
Okay.
He done that because in case, he's got an expensive training system on these dogs as far as the collar and stuff, and he had forgotten to attach it to the main one's shocking collar and had forgot all about it. Well, he gave it to his son John, and we went looking for him again and couldn't find nothing. I mean, it wouldn't even respond. And then it was getting close to dark. I'd say it was 7:30. It was time for us to turn around because the sun had done gone down. And about that time, he got a hit. It started picking up. And it was all the way down way at the bottom of the mountain, where basically you enter another state, another county.
Okay.
And we followed it, and finally we found what was left of one of the dogs. I don't know what had happened to it. I don't know what done it, but I'll stick to the basics, but I'm not going to go too deep because, some people don't want to hear. The animal's head was turned completely around in a 360, and its neck was broke. The head was pointed straight toward its tail.
Okay.
All its innards had been removed. It had broken the spine in half, like folded it and just snapped it. But whatever done that had flayed this animal. It wasn't a knife cut, you could tell, but it was still whatever done it sharp. Right above the flanks, right where the hips come into the backbone, into the body right there, there was a straight cut on each side right there. And then they had folded this animal in half.
So with the cuts, really quick, how, when you and I were talking, I almost envisioned, like you said, it wasn't done with a knife, but it was done with something sharp. But it still was almost, the way you describe it is almost like a butcher cut, kind of.
That's exactly what it puts in mind of. And it was right at the point where the spine was, right down below it was snapped. It's like it had, the legs were pointed up toward the air, like all four of them were pushed together, and of course the body had got stiff.
Right.
And you could actually, I don't know how to grasp it or envision it, but it looked like this animal that done this, I don't even know what it could do something like this, had enough intelligence to make it like a bread bag, where it could actually reach down and where it had gotten stiff, carry the corpse of the dog like a potato sack, with all four limbs in one hand. I mean, like the feet come together, you could grab all 4 feet in once, like you'd throw it over your back.
And disemboweled completely.
Exactly. All innards were removed. There wasn't nothing in the animal that we could see. And the innards were nowhere to be found.
All right. And this was, like you said, a raccoon dog. Which I know a little bit about hunting dogs, and I'm pretty sure that these dogs are, not a pushover. They're not a small kind of beagle. These are big dogs.
Yeah, these are large animals.
Okay.
And it was a walker hound, and he had over $2,000 invested in this animal. And we called him and we told him what he'd found, and he wanted us to remove the collar and take that to him, and he wanted his son John to carry the animal out. And I talked to him, and we just said, no, we're not touching it. We're not taking this, just leaving it be. I mean, what good does it do? This animal might, whatever done, if it's animal, mammal, whatever, might track this back to him. Right. And we decided best to leave it alone.
Right, okay.
And we went in the next day looking for the other one, and we never did find it. But on past where we went that other one, and we went by, the next day we went by where the corpse of the one we had previously found was gone. Not a sign of it. It was gone.
Okay.
So we got the bright idea to go on past where we found it and kept walking, and nothing was picking up, nothing at all. But we got about 100 yards below where he had found the previous animal, and he found a body part. I mean, it was one of the limbs had been torn off and just laying there off the side of the path.
Was it the one that you guys had previously seen, or could it, or was it the other one?
It's the other one.
Okay.
Because there's no mistaking it. One was a red bone. That's the one we found. He found the parts to, and the one that we found the corpse was a walker, which is white and brown, and the red bone was red.
Okay.
So there was no mistaking it. And then we went on down. He found a back leg, and looked like it had been ripped off, and something had chewed upon it.
All right, so it wasn't clean, like the cuts?
No, it wasn't nowhere near as clean a cut or anything like that.
Okay.
And there again, this time it was about, I'd say about 6:30, which wasn't dark by any means, but the sun still is not the strongest point of the day.
Yeah.
And, in the woods, when the sun's going down, it casts shadows and you're losing a lot of your brightness.
And this is just within a month from now, or within this time frame. So
about 3 weeks ago to a month.
So the sun at 6:30 is not relatively high, but you do have some sight. You're pretty good,
right?
Especially down in Virginia area. So
yeah, and especially with the mountains being the way as they are, and the trees, some hollers the sun don't even touch at times.
Okay.
So it was dark, just enough to feel creepy.
Yeah.
And then we decided we was going to make a report. We called his dad and told him what we found, and we decided to walk out. Well, for some reason, I think John stopped to tie his boot because he had, we went through some green briars and he had pulled the string loose and he had to tie it. Well, when we stopped, we heard something walking, and it stopped all of a sudden. And he looked at me and I looked at him, and we were like, nah, couldn't be. Well, I was talking to him as he was tying his boot, and we started moving again. And then I decided, just for the heck of it, just to stop and see, if I was right. And we stopped, and about 2 seconds after we stopped, we heard something continue walking, and it stopped. Then we started getting weary, and we started looking around. And we didn't run, we didn't jog, but we speed walked what we could, as much as we could, because, this was steep. You have one part of it, and you have to take your time, because you're not going to get up that hill fast.
Right.
And we walked about another 100 yards, and we got our breath before we started up the big incline. And when we stopped, we heard it again. And then we started looking around. And you could actually see something. It looked like it was about 50 yards behind us, between 40 and 50 yards, peek around the side of the tree. But, a lot of people say they've seen Dogman do this. But I don't think this was a Dogman, because it moves so quick. We've seen it, and then just like a shadow out of the corner of your eye would go to it, it's gone.
Yeah. I think the best way to, not to cut you off, but just to explain a little bit, because me and you have talked about this, but, like you said, people say, a Bigfoot or a Dogman, when they're stalked, they see it kind of peer out, and can make out like a snout or the ears. But what you had, you are catching just a quick glimpse of it, just enough to your eye gets a quick sight of it, and then it's gone. And that casts more of that really just creepy feeling that you were already initially having.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we'd done decided by then, we know we'd be entrailed. And it don't matter, we were both armed with sidearms, but I don't care if you've got 4 pound of plastic explosive, 10 detonators, and rockets you can shoot at this thing. It still makes you feel out of your element and scared. I'm just going to be admitted, it's scary.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what's trailing you or what its intent is or what. Well, we started walking up the incline. We'd walk about 20 yards and stop and catch our breath. It's a steep embankment. We'd have to hang on. It was steep enough when going up, but we'd reach for saplings and stuff when we rest. So we don't lose our grip and roll back down the hill. And we get about 20 yards, and he turns around, and he sees it again. And one time I turned around, it done went back around the tree. Well, we seen it dart, whatever it was. I mean, lickety-split, just like you snapped your fingers. Zip from one tree to another about 30 yards apart. And then we both seen it peep around that side of the tree. But what we seen peep is like it had no color, no pigment at all. We didn't see no tall ears. I don't know what it was. And then we sped up and we started going. We climbed all the way to the top of that incline until we was about 10 feet from the top of it, and we were out of breath. And then after we caught our breath, we turned around and looked, because when you top over, you come back out of the woods and into the clearing. Like the edge of the woods is in a pasture, and you come up over and there's a field.
Okay.
And that was what we were shooting for. But we stopped, I'd say about 10, 12 yards from breaking down the edge of the woods and into the clear. And we turned around and looked, and this thing had moved all the way up to where we were standing previously, about 15 to 20 minutes before, down at the beginning of the incline, because we could see a little bit better this time. And it had got behind a tree, but the tree it had got behind didn't provide the cover. The tree was a lot skinnier than the others we had seen, and we could see something on both sides. And then we seen it move, and it's like it turned sideways, so we couldn't see nothing. And then we seen something, attempt to stick its head around, but it jerked it back so fast we could see it. And then we just hurried, took our last breath, and we climbed on up out there till we got to the clear. And when we got to the top, we could hear it, and it sounded. There's a part where you look down over the incline that there's like a little hump, and then it goes back down to the incline where you can't see. And we sounded like it was running up the incline. And whatever it is moves extremely fast, faster than anything that I've seen move. And we just decided to turn around and just keep walking into the clear, not looking back. Of course, that's hard to do, once we kept on walking.
Yeah.
His dad was outside waiting on us down there at the barn. And he said that he seen something behind us about the time we were about 20 feet from the barn. He said he looked over one time. This was about 200 yards away by then. And he said he seen something at the edge of the woods turn, and the way he described it, Predator, the thing in Predator had that, whatever kind of camouflage it was. I mean, not saying that's what it was, of course.
Right.
But he said he could make something out, but whatever it was naturally camouflaged so well that it broke up everything. You could not make out any telltale signs to identify what it was.
Like a shimmer, like the glimmer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, people have like a name for that, because people have been seeing that as, I guess not as of late, but just within the last couple of years, I think people are now they have, what I think it is people are now sharing it, because how obscure is it? First and foremost, you have a Dogman experience or a Bigfoot experience, you're going to get ridiculed for that. But if you have an experience where you feel like you're getting followed, you're getting followed, but you can't see what it is, and then you see this shimmer, this glimmer, and that puts a whole nother kind of stigma on it, because people aren't really going to take that serious. They're going to be like, what the hell are you, what kind of drugs are you on?
Yeah, exactly.
People are calling it like the glimmer man and such, which I guess fits, but I mean, to me, it's almost camouflage, alien camouflage.
Yeah.
And it didn't go, once you hit that tree line, it didn't go any further.
No, not that we could hear. And then, like I said, it sounded like we heard something running, right when we first started talking, taking off, and we just continued walking and didn't stop.
Okay.
Because we didn't want to know, and we, like I said, it sounded like we heard something trying to run up the incline.
That day.
And right before.
What were you saying?
And right before we got to the barn to talk to his dad, we was about 20 feet away from him, and that's when he said he seen something at the edge of the woods turn and just go back over the hill.
That day previous, when you found the initial dog, the first one, did you guys have any kind of feeling, or was it just a freaky feeling that you had after finding the dog?
It was a freaky feeling. We didn't feel nothing like we were being watched or nothing.
So once you found the dog, you were, then you were freaked out.
Yeah, exactly. And then the next day when we found the parts, that was a totally different situation.
Yeah. Because
even before he found that, we got the feeling as we were being watched. I don't know if we were or not, but, the hair would stand up on my arms like static. It weird feeling.
Yeah, definitely.
Your legs tingle and you're being watched or something is not what it should be.
Yeah. That's very. I wonder if whatever had killed the dogs. I wonder if it didn't know you were in the woods that first day, realized that you had seen it. Did you guys took the tracker off the dog that you found?
Yeah, we took that back to his father.
I wonder if it noticed that was gone or whatnot, moved it, and decided to, kind of lay in wait for, just to see if you were coming back the next day or later on that night or whatever for you.
It's quite possible. We examined, the corpse close up of the first one we found, but I wouldn't touch it.
Yeah.
I grabbed a stick and poked it, rolled it one way and then rolled it another. I was not going to touch it with my bare hand because I was afraid to get my sin on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So but after that, you, what happened with your buddy? Anything? Nothing, or has it just been on you?
He hadn't experienced much of nothing. He didn't. If he did, he didn't say. He just said that about a week after we done this, his dad had seen something else in the edge of the woods again, and he said he thinks it was the same thing.
Yeah.
But if whatever it is, once it knows that you've made it or you can see it, it's gone. I mean, it just disappears.
Okay.
And then after that, I started having trouble here at the house, which I didn't think, could be related, but it's quite possible.
Yeah, because you and I were talking, and I'll talk a little bit about that after me and you talk. But I want to point something out real quick. Is DJ's wife is a pastor. Her faith is very strong. So I think that first and foremost, before we get into this next part, needed to be said. So that you can finish up on that now.
Yeah. As you said, my wife is strong in the faith of our Lord and Savior. And there's things going on here in the house at night. We have pets inside. They're like our kids. But, for no reason at all, my dog stays with me in here on the couch till I go to bed. And even then, he tries to sleep with me. He never barks at nothing. And we've noticed within the last couple months, he'll pull a blanket down off the back of the couch and he'll cover himself up, which I guess most animals would if they get chilly. But he didn't stop at that. He would pull the covers up over his head where he couldn't see nothing. And I thought it was just him covering up, maybe being cold or something. But come to find out, we was in here one night and just all of a sudden, he was covered up. He threw his head out from under the cover and started barking. And he was looking at one certain place over toward the door. And as he would bark, the hair on the back of my neck felt like it was standing up. I knew there was something. I knew he seen something that I couldn't see. I even, grabbed the phone and tried to take pictures, which I did, but nothing showed up. Mm. And this has happened a few times. And then we have another dog that we adopted, a female stray. that came here, and she's got a pit bull in her, and she runs all the other animals off during feeding time. She'll even run Sam off, and he's 3 times her size. Okay. But she has no fear at all. And when it comes to, if we go to fix something to eat, or you go rumble in the kitchen, she's done got used to the sound of a cabinet closing or a refrigerator or freezer door opening. She knows the sounds to know that there's food on the way, no matter if it's hers or not. Yeah. And she'll hang around sometimes an hour after there's food fixed or something in the kitchen, just looking for a crumb or a bite to get, because she must have been mistreated. But anyhow, I was sitting in here one night, and my wife had done fixed her a snack before she went to bed, and she was in the kitchen. Then all of a sudden, I hear her bark, the loudest I've ever heard her bark, and she come from there into the vestibule, through the dining room, and in here in the living room. And I don't mean walking, she was moving. So whatever was in that kitchen, she's seen it too, but it scared her so bad she didn't go in there for the rest of the night. And then I've heard a few things, and I haven't seen nothing, right? But I've heard a few things. And then one time I caught something out of the corner of my eye. As I turned real quick, I seen something dart behind the wall, like where we keep our, our washer and our dryer in the utility room. Yeah. And it's separated from the kitchen by a walk-through, and then, like I said, that doorway. Whatever it was ducked behind that doorway, and I walked in there, and there was nothing there. But my son, he's experienced a few things that were worse than mine. Okay. He's even as far as to say that he's heard walking back there toward his room, outside of the door, like it would knock. And then he actually went as far as to say he heard the claws. Now, he didn't say nails. He said, point out, sounds like claws going down the wall, scratching the wall outside the room.
On the inside of the house?
Yes, on the inside of the house.
So,
and I don't know what to do. I mean, I really don't. Of course, I brought this to my wife's attention and asked her, and she hadn't seen or heard nothing.
Yeah, because her faith is strong.
Her faith is so strong that, I wouldn't be surprised if she's got angels guarding her if she sleeps.
Yeah. I would honestly, like you said, you and I had talked, and you had almost thought about downloading an app for, like, ghost communication and such. And I said, don't do that. You're just going to instigate this. The best thing I'd say would be, to ignore it. Pray, ignore it as much as you can. In prayer, see how that works for you. You know what I mean? Don't say anything. Just as an experiment, don't say anything to your son, but you see how it works for you when you pray and kind of ignore it. And if it kind of settles on you, then tell him, hey, this was what worked for me, bud. Now, that thing that you had seen by your washer and dryer, would you describe it as like a shadow man or just it was like a peripheral kind of gone?
Exactly. I wouldn't call it a shadow person, but it was just so quick. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't dark enough to be a shadow people. Okay. But it was an entity. Yeah. That's all I know.
Yeah, that's real. That's some really weird stuff.
But the claws on the wall, and the walking back and forth outside of his room is bad enough. And he said he actually looked down once, and he said he seen a shadow as he heard the walking go by the door. Matter of fact, he said I heard him holler that night. He called my name to see if it was me outside of there. And I texted him on the cell phone from there, and it's not me.
And that house, I know, it's been in your wife's family for a little bit.
Yeah, it's been in his family for years.
Yeah, and there's a cemetery up above you in the mountain.
Yeah, big old family.
But you've never had any issues like that prior. I know, like you and I have talked for years. I've known you for, since the couple years now, and since you moved out of the inner part of Tazewell out to the outskirts, you've never had any issues with anything out there. Minus the Dogman in your yard, but nothing in your home. Yeah. Yeah. I would
Yes, sir.
try, I'm no expert. Maybe pray. I think pray. Obviously, if you and your son, your guys' faith is not as strong as your wife's. So just, you know, pray every once in a while. When you get that odd feeling, just quick say, and then just see if that works for you, and then let the boy know, hey, this is what worked for me. But see if it ends for you, but continues for him. That claw thing is awful scary, though. That's some really scary stuff, though.
Yeah, that's what's in my nose. That would in turn make my nose hairs stand up and march to the beat of the drum, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I don't care what your sex is, what your denomination is, or how old you are. Anybody will hear that in their own home night, you're going to get the EBGBs.
Night, day, anytime. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Well, I really appreciate you sharing this with us. I hope that it does get better. I'm going to pray for you, and I know everyone else that prays will pray for you as well. Just do me a favor. Try it, see if it works, and then let me know. But
I definitely will, for sure.
Do me a favor. I know you got a sore throat. Don't hang up. I want to talk to you. You got anything you want to say to everybody?
I just want to tell them thank you for, supporting the show and supporting you and myself, and hope to talk to you all again soon.
DJ, it's been a pleasure. It always is. Be safe and keep me in the loop so I know, because I'd like to figure it out with you too.
No good problem. Not a bit of problem. I sure will, Jeff.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that quick little interview with DJ. Nice to hear from him. Nice to talk to him. Really nice guy. While he and I were talking in the before the upload, before the interview, I was talking a little bit about this book. It is one of my favorite books that I own now. And I was telling him about how Jonathan Axelrod had been to Skinwalker Ranch after looking into the USS Nimitz Tic Tac videos. And then I told him how the debriefing went with the Bigelow group, and how right after his family had seen Dogman in their yard, his wife had some experiences with shadow men, and they heard kind of like footsteps and strange things going on through their home. And I was like telling him, you've known me for 4 years now. When I started the channel, he didn't know me back then, but I didn't, like I've said, I didn't think about the religious aspect of it, the God part. And I honestly, like I said yesterday, I believe that was the puzzle piece I was missing. And once I got that puzzle piece, and once I started to examine where that puzzle piece needed to go in my puzzle, I truly believe that it is all connected. I believe that the evil that we experience, the cryptids that we experience, I used to believe that they were just mammals, that they were just animals. But I really think that there is something evil about them. I really do. And I think that it's all connected, because the paranormal, the shadow men, these reptilians, the dogmen, the alien agenda, it's just this, it's kind of hard not to imagine it being connected. But then again, looking back at everything, it's kind of hard to not think that it's connected. Like, how can a a ghost be connected to a Dogman? How can a poltergeist be connected? Well, the connection is the evil. The connection is the anti-God, the anti-good, the anti-light, you know? And I think once you reject the light, reject the goodness, is when things start to materialize. And it doesn't have to be a complete rejection of the light or of God. It's like when something doesn't take the place of your belief, but it takes over the amount of time. So you don't have that time to think and that time to pray, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on this one too, but I know it fits my puzzle piece right now. And I feel good. I feel good at how my puzzle is coming along. It feels like knowing that these things are connected was something missing. And now that I realize it, now that I feel it, I think that, we'll never solve it. We'll never put the puzzle together, but at least when it's my time to meet my maker, I will know that my puzzle was or is how it should be for me. Probably doesn't make any sense, but anyway. Let's jump into some documented reptilian experiences. I've got one from Linda Moulton Howe. Walter Cronkite. Walter Cronkite, get that one. And a couple others. So, all right, folks. So for the last 9 days, 10 days, I have been sharing with you periodically documented case files with reptilians. These are from people who have researched these accounts. They are not subscribers submitted accounts. These are accounts that have been looked at thoroughly and have been published or looked at by the government and other organizations such as MUFON. Today I've got one from Linda Moulton Howe, and like I said, there's 34 of these. I said yesterday, 34 of them. I shared to start off 28, 29, and 30. Those had a lot to do with Dulce. And then I kind of just started right at the beginning with one. We are now at case file number 14. Case file number 14 from Alien Abductions in the Gingerbread House, Dr. Carla Turner. A man in his late 40s came to us to explore several alien-related events in his life. And in the interview, he told of a strange, although not apparently alien-oriented, episode that had haunted him since childhood. When he was 10 years of age, his grandmother came to visit him at his home. And since the house was small, she shared his bed on the first night of her visit. During the night, the boy was awakened by a loud male voice. He couldn't understand what the voice was saying, but it sounded angry and was addressing the grandmother lying beside him. The next morning, he asked his grandmother what was the voice in the bedroom last night. His grandmother, with tears in her eyes, pulled him tightly to her and said, "That was the devil." She said nothing more about the episode, but she did insist that her son take her back to her home immediately. It was an unreasonable request, and her son tried to talk her out of it. But the grandmother was adamant, and finally her son agreed to take her home the following day. The entire family made a trip of over 100 miles back to the grandmother's farm, and within an hour of their arrival, the grandmother suffered a massive stroke and died. Ever since the event, the man had felt a heavy burden of guilt associated with his grandmother's death. Yet there was no conscious reason for him to even felt that way. The entire event was mystifying, but in all the alien encounters he had subsequently undergone, he had felt the aliens were his friends and were helping him by expanding his psychic abilities. A regression session was arranged, and in the course of the hypnosis, he was asked to look at that childhood experience. What he recalled was an abduction in which he and his grandmother were taken aboard a spacecraft in the company of reptilian aliens. He remembered the aliens telling his grandmother that they were interested in learning about her knowledge of medical herbs, and they offered to exchange medical information of their own. They gave the boy and the grandmother a liquid to drink, explaining that it was beneficial and would make the grandmother feel young and attractive again. They both drank the liquid, and the man remembered seeing his grandmother indeed looking much younger. That was the extent of his recollection. Both he and Miss Bartholic, who were conducted the regression, were puzzled by this because there was nothing in this episode to account for the guilt he had felt about his grandmother's death. So Miss Bartholic deepened the man's trance level and asked him to look at it again with a much clearer vision, and what he then recalled was much more disturbing. The abduction at first followed his initial recollection, but when the liquid was drunk, he now remembered a very strong feeling of change in his body, and he saw that the grandmother didn't actually look younger. Instead, she was placed on a table and approached by one of the reptilian creatures who wanted to have intercourse. The liquid had acted like an aphrodisiac, yet the grandmother resisted and said that since her husband's death, she would not experience anything like that again. The reptilian laughed and disappeared from the room momentarily. When he returned, he was accompanied by a man who looked exactly like her dead husband and the boy's grandfather. At this point, the grandmother agreed to do the dirty, but as the act was in progress, she suddenly realized that the image of her dead husband was a cruel illusion. It was actually the reptilian that was with her. She cried out with great resistance for him to leave her alone. Once he had finished, he lifted up the little boy and placed him atop of the grandmother, forcing another act to happen. Then the grandmother was removed from the table and the little boy was victimized himself by the reptilian. Forced. And I will not get into, but use your imagination. The grandmother protested violently, pushing the reptilian away from her grandson and interposing her body between them. "By Jesus," she shouted, "you will not touch this boy." That must have been the wrong thing to say because the reptilian became very angry and threatened her. "You will die for that," he told her. And the two people were returned to their bedroom from when they had been taken. The next morning, the grandmother told the little boy that the devil had been there that night, and that was when she insisted on being taken home, and as in turn she did die immediately thereafter. This then was the cause of the man's lifelong sense of guilt about her death. He had been forced to with her, and her death had followed shortly thereafter, but none of this experience would have ever emerged if Miss Bartholic had done as more investigators do and stopped the regression after uncovering the experience about the exchange of medical knowledge. There are other cases in these files that will show similar deception at work in the initial hypnotic recall. We cannot trust that first memory is clear, for like so much else in the abduction experience, there may well be further maskings of events. So I've spoken about a little bit about this while talking about Dulce and the genetic experimentation, manipulation, and such. And talking about Brad's encounter with Daniel. It could have been an alien, like a Nordic, or an angel. The reptilians are either some sort of alien-like creature or demons. What if that is the case? What if these reptilians are demons? What if they are the cast down 200? The ones that were sent down from heaven, the fallen angels. And in the book of Enoch, they were not kicked out of heaven, but they were asked to go and keep an eye on humanity. Then when they saw the daughter of man is when the change happened. But it just seems awful close to demonic activity, what these reptilians are capable of, the manipulation. You know, you hear how demons will manipulate to get what they want. And essentially that is what these reptilians do. Think about the pacts they have made with the government. You know, is that a pact that the government willingly went into? Could be. But with a help of manipulation, it would make it all the more easier. Anyway, let's get into the next encounter. Case file number 15. From The Harvest Continues. Animal Mutilation Update. An article by Linda Moulton Howe. In the UFO Magazine, Volume 5, Number 4, 1999. Throughout the history of animal mutilation since 1967, there have been numerous eyewitness accounts of large glowing discs or silent helicopters over pastures, where dead animals were later found. One Waco, Texas rancher said he encountered 2 4-foot-tall, light green-colored creatures with large black slanted eyes, carrying a calf, which was later found dead and mutilated. In 1983, a Missouri couple watched through binoculars as 2 small beings in tight-fitted suits worked on a cow in the nearby pasture. The alien heads were large and white in color. Nearby, a tall, green-skinned lizard man stood glaring, with his eyes slit by a vertical pupil like a crocodile. Case number 16. The UFO crash/retrieval syndrome status report 2. Leonard H. Stringfield by MUFON. The report interviews several medical doctors who did autopsies on ET bodies from UFO crash sites, who indicate that the majority of the gray-type alien entities actually possess a reptilian or Surian genetic base. ET had large heads, were around 4 feet tall. They had small noses and mouths with no ears or hair. The photo that I had taken by the ET and has an eye diameter of 1 inch. He has his left hand raised in a salute. The hand has 4 fingers on it, with 1 finger twice as long as the outside finger. The photo was taken at a range of 3 feet from the waist up. Brain capacity is 1,800 cc's versus 1,300 cc's, the average human. The skin is gray or ashen and under a microscope appears mesh-like. This mesh-like appearance gives the reptilian texture of the granular-skinned lizards like iguanas or chameleons. There was a colorless liquid in the body without red cells or lymphocytes, no hemoglobin. There was no digestive system, intestinal, or alimentary canal or rectal area in the ET autopsy. Case number 17, The Truth About UFOs by Brad Steger. In the late 60s, I presented my hypothesis that the reason why the most frequented reported UFO knots resemble reptilian or amphibian humanoids may be because that is exactly what they are, highly evolved members of the serpentine or semi-aquatic species. A provocative theory is that the dinosaurs did not really vanish. They evolved into a humanoid creature that eventually ran its course or was destroyed in the Atlantean type catastrophe. I had developed this hypothesis considerably, Stringer continues, so I was delighted when I received word from Dale Russell and Ron Segan of Canada's National Museum of Natural Science in Ottawa had fashioned a model of a humanoid dinosaur using the Stenotrophosaurus and Equalis as the inspiration. Stenotrophosaurus, according to Russell, had a rather large brain and eyes with overlapping visual fields. The 90-pound dinosaur also walked on two legs, and it appears to have had a particularly opposable thumb on its three-clawed hand. The result of such scientific speculation was an astonishingly human-like creature that Russell terms dinosaurid. The creature stands 4.5 feet tall, has a large domed head, green skin, yellow reptilian eyes. It should probably have had ears, Russell conceded, but the effect would have made it appear more human, as it was the dinosaur on display at Canada's National Museum of Natural Science. Almost exactly fits the description of UFO knots provided by thousands of men and women throughout the planet who have reported close encounters. Here's another case file from Brad Steger. Case file 18, UFO abductors. Brad Steger, 1988, Berkeley Books. In the greatest number of alien encounters, the UFO knots were described as standing about 5 feet tall and dressed in a one-piece tight-fitting jumpsuit. Their skin was gray or greenish gray, hairless. Their faces were dominated by large eyes, very often snake-like slit pupils. They had no discernible lips, just straight lines for their mouths. They seldom were described as having noses, just little snubs if at all, but usually the witness saw only nostrils nearly flush with their smooth face. Sometimes a precipitant mentioned pointed ears, but on many occasions commented on the absence of noticeable ears on the large round head, and repeatedly witnesses described an insignia of a flying serpent on a shoulder patch, a badge or medallion, or a helmet. Case file number 19 from the Nevada Aerial Research Journal, the summer of 1989. Reprint a UPI news item which appeared in a Berkeley, California newspaper. Dale Russell, curator of fossil vertebrates at the National Museum of Canada in Ottawa, has developed a theory that intelligent life forms could have developed from large reptilians that roamed the earth in ancient times. Russell calls his imaginary creature the dinosaurid, which looked like a hairless, green-skinned reptile with bulging skull, luminous cat-like eyes, and three-fingered hands. The amphibians evolved into humanoid species that eventually developed a culture that ran its course or was destroyed in the Atlantis-like catastrophe just after they had begun exploring extraterrestrial frontiers. Certain UFO knots then may be descendants of the survivors of that amphibian culture, returning from their space colony to monitor the present dominant species of their home planet. So pretty much what people have talked about is some believe that these reptilians or the dinosaurid would be the native Tarians of Earth. Not saying humans are not the native Tarians either, but we came after. Which, if you think about this very interesting but very not viewed upon very well, or viewed upon very well by two sides. Where did the dinosaurs go? You know, I've read different things, and I mean, even in the Book of Enoch, when they talk about the Watchers, once again, they talk about them looking reptilian. I encourage people to look it up, read the book, dig deep into it, because it does state reptilian-like. Case File 20. From a review of a 4-part documentary, Dinosaur, hosted by Walter Cronkite, by columnist David Norman. The series finishes with an unusual flourish. In 1982, Dr. Dale Russell of the Royal Museum of Canada in Ottawa indulged in a thought experiment. He had described a small, highly predatory, nimble troodont dinosaur of the late Cretaceous, Stenotrophosaurus, which had an unusually large brain, large stereoscopic eyes, grasping hands. He speculated about what might have happened to such dinosaurs if they had not become extinct. His answer was the dinosaurid, a 3-clawed, 3-toed, large-brained, upright, and tailless dinosaur. Norman also described an almost human-like quality of the hand of one particular saurian branch, the iguanodon. The flexible 5th finger moves a bit like a human thumb for grasping objects, while the middle 3 fingers are capable of little flexure. The large stiletto-like thumb spike of the iguanodon would have been a devastating weapon. The sharp spike, coupled with the strength of a forelimb, could have punctured the toughest skin. So really quick, as I read this, I recorded this, and then I deleted it because a thought popped in my head. There are 2 cases back in 2020 to 2022 when there was a lot of unexplained attacks. And when I say unexplained, I mean Brenda Hamilton, Shaw, Dr. Nancy Shaw, Christopher Whiteley. Christopher Whiteley of Lipin, Texas. And if you've been with the channel, you remember I called the police department and I talked to them. I recorded it and put it on the channel. Before people were even talking about, people are still making videos about this case. They're just uncovering it now. But 2 years ago, when it was fresh, I was talking about it hardcore and calling the different sheriff department, different police departments, recording the conversations and playing them here for you. But there was a puncture wound the size of a nickel in his chest, in his sternum. And I thought it was, wham. And I thought maybe, just maybe, Dogman. What if a dogman just... But why would a dogman just puncture its chest? And that's what I talked about this on these videos. This thumb-like wham. What if Whiteley wasn't attacked by a dogman? I mean, one police department said it was a mountain lion. The other DEC said it wasn't. Or DEC said it was. The police department said it wasn't. It was just a mix-up, a mess. You had experts coming in with skull fragments of mountain lions to show that it couldn't have been this animal that attacked Christopher Whiteley. And then 2 months later, there was a woman in Colorado attacked walking her dogs. They blamed bears. They blamed a mama bear with her 2 cubs. Yet her body was not attacked. The evidence of the attack did not resemble a bear attack at all. And it had in her sternum a nickel-sized hole. So I do believe dogmen are attacking human beings like Amber Miller and Tony Aarons. I do believe those two were attacked savagely by a dogman. Quite possibly Brenda Hamilton, Dr. Nancy Shaw. But what if these reptilians are occasionally going to kidnap and bring to these deep underground military bases, and the people that they target fight back? Wouldn't it be easy? Wham, done. And then to just kind of maul that body to make it look like an attack. But it was just very strange because each Whiteley and the woman from Colorado both had a nickel-sized hole in their sternum. Very, very weird. This will be the last case file of the night. From a testimonial of a police officer, patrolman Herb Shermer, in regards to his description of an alien creature, which he swore he had encountered during an abduction experience outside of Ashland, Nebraska, shortly after midnight on December 3rd, 1967. They were 4.5 to 5.5 feet tall. Their uniforms were a silvery gray, shiny. Their suits came up around to their heads like a pilot cap. On the right side of their helmets, they had a small antenna just above where the air would be. Their chests were bigger than ours. They were built very wiry and muscular. Their eyes were the one thing I will never forget. The pupil went up and down like a slit. When they looked at me, they stared straight into my eyes. They didn't blink. It was very uncomfortable. Their noses were flat. Their mouths looked more like a slit than a regular mouth. So, I don't know why there are so many different abduction. I don't know why you see a gray, a naked gray, and a reptilian, or both, or singularly. But then periodically you have these alien-like creatures in suits. Do you think those are a government hoax to make the real abduction ones, make the real abduction experiences look strange to us? I mean, because think about it, it was mainly in the 60s, 70s, and possibly early 80s when people were like, they had these silver spacesuits and this and that. And why would they be wearing a spacesuit? That's like saying Neanderthals wore a loincloth when they didn't know how to sew, when they were already hairy enough that they didn't need clothes. I don't know. It's very strange. Very, very strange. Anyway, that was the last case file of the night. I hope you enjoyed them as much as I enjoyed sharing those with you. All right, folks. I myself think that was a pretty good upload. I hope you guys do as well. A lot of great information. I love those reptilian case files. I think they're really interesting. It was nice to hear from DJ. Really nice. Very alarming experience. You know, that one time that I was up where Tom Mezek disappeared, and I felt like something was up there with me that one day. And I had probably 20 to 30 different emails saying, hey, you know, at this one spot, it was kind of, you know, something was there watching you. And that was, ironically enough, where I felt something was watching me. It was kind of off to the side, off to my right in the woods. And it was like that, but I don't believe it was a glimmer man. I don't believe it. I think to me it seemed like a crawler, definitely not a Dogman, or something from a portal. I really think there is a portal in that area. A lot of the Adirondacks is granite, and that's an attractor, as many of us know. So anyway, with that, guys, I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is your support, after all, that keeps this channel growing and going. And honestly, what gives people like DJ a chance to share their experiences, ideas, and theories, judgment-free, just simply treated with the respect that we all deserve. Thank you. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, friends. These creatures are real. They are out there, and they are dangerous. Share this info with the people you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the answers. God bless.